Discover the incredible bond at the bus stop, a Shivering girl's life-changing moment revealed. Emily stood shivering at the bus stop, clutching her tattered backpack like a lifeline. Each gust of wind felt sharper than a knife, slicing through her worn-out coat. She glanced down at her threadbare shoes, scuffed and barely holding together, and felt the stinging whispers of her classmates echoing in her mind. "Look at those shoes, they detaunt. Did you rob a thrift store?" It was a cruel, continuous reminder of her struggles, of her family's battles, especially with her mom working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. This morning was no different. The bustling suburb of Chicago was alive, but Emily felt like an outsider, lost in a world where everyone else seemed so carefree. Her heart raced with a mix of anticipation and dread. School awaited her, the place of both learning and teasing. Just as she wrapped her arms around herself for warmth, an unexpected figure appeared beside her. Mr. Jensen, a Vietnam veteran, stood there with a warm blanket draped over one arm and a gentle smile on his sun-weathered face. His presence filled the chilly air with a warmth that ran deeper than any fabric could provide. "Cold out here, huh?" he said, his voice soothing. His kind, light blue eyes connected with hers, and she felt some tears she didn't know she was holding back threatened to spill over. "Here, take this," he said, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders. "You look like you could use it." Emily's heart swelled. "Thank you," she whispered, pulling the blanket tighter, feeling the softness against her skin. Mr. Jensen shared stories about resilience, about his own battles after returning from war. The tales of struggle combined with a fierce spirit ignited something inside her, something she didn't realize had been dormant. This was more than just a bus stop friendship, it was a lifeline, but one fateful day, everything changed. Her mom fell ill. Bills piled up, and the very real threat of eviction became a looming horror over their small apartment. Panic gripped Emily's chest. How could she help? She didn't want to burden anyone after the whispers that constantly followed her. After a few failed attempts to earn money with odd jobs, she sank into despair, wrestling with the idea of reaching out for help. Before she could drown in hopelessness, Mr. Jensen, true to his nature, stepped in. He organized a fundraiser for her family, a surprising act of kindness that sent a ripple through the community. News spread fast, stirring a whirlwind of emotions in Emily. Hope collided with anxiety. Would her classmates know about her struggles? Would they pity her or treat her with kindness? As the fundraiser day approached, tension twisted in her stomach. It felt fearsome exposing her vulnerability publicly. Standing at the crossroads of courage and shame, she visualized sharing her story but dreaded the outcome. Would her truth inspire understanding or simply attract the whispers she had feared for so long? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. On the morning of the fundraiser, Emily stood at the bus stop again, the cold air biting her face, but with an undercurrent of warmth from Mr. Jensen's unwavering faith in her. As the bus approached, she felt a spark of determination igniting within her. Could she step into the light and tell her story? Would her community embrace her, or would she again stand alone, drowning in judgment? The bus doors opened, and somehow, she felt ready to take that leap into the unknown. Emily stepped onto the bus, the warmth inside contrasting sharply with the cold outside. She found a seat by the window, the blanket still wrapped around her shoulders, providing a sense of comfort. The familiar faces of her classmates filled the bus, their laughter ringing in her ears. She watched as they chatted excitedly, oblivious to the storm swirling inside her. As the bus rolled towards the community center, Emily's thoughts were a chaotic mix of fear and hope. Would they see her differently? Would they laugh at her struggles, or would they rally around her? Mr. Jensen's words played over and over in her mind. Courage comes in many forms, Emily. Sometimes, it's simply standing up and sharing your truth. Taking a deep breath, she rubbed the fabric of the blanket, feeling its warmth, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this fight. Soon enough, the bus screeched to a halt, and a rush of adrenaline surged through her. With shaky hands, she collected her belongings and stepped off the bus, the shouts and murmurs of her classmates greeting her in waves. Walking towards the community center, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Colorful banners hung from the ceiling, and tables were set up with games and baked goods. It was a beautiful sight, and for a moment, she felt a sense of belonging. But as she approached the small stage at the front, doubt crept in again, tightening its grip around her heart. Jensen was already there, spotting her from across the room. He waved her over with that warm smile that had become her anchor. "You ready?" he asked, his voice steady and reassuring, as if he could sense her uncertainty. The thought of standing in front of everyone felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. "I think so," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Remember, Emily," he said, leaning closer. "You're sharing your story to show others they're not alone. That takes real courage." Nodding, she took his words to heart. Soon, the room started to fill with people. Parents, friends, neighbors, all there to show their support. As Emily prepared to take the microphone, she noticed faces from the past. Jason, the boy who had teased her about her shoes, was standing among the crowd, a hint of concern in his eyes. With a rush of courage, she took a deep breath. The microphone felt foreign in her hands, heavy with the weight of her fears and hopes. The chatter quieted, and all eyes were on her. The world seemed to vanish, leaving only the sound of her heart pounding in her ears. "I want to thank you all for being here today," she started, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm really nervous, but I want to share something important with you." As she continued, her story poured out like a burst dam, the struggles, the fear, the whispers of judgment. Each word felt like a weight lifted, a tug against the suffocating silence that had lurked around her. Yet, the anxiety of her classmates' reactions gripped her, making it hard to breathe. But as she finished her tale, she glanced around the crowd. Faces that had once been shadowed with mockery now seemed painted with empathy. The room erupted in applause. For a moment, she felt invincible. Then, unexpectedly, Jason stepped forward. "Emily. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I didn't understand. Thank you for sharing your story." His sincerity echoed in the room, and she watched as others began to step forward, their expressions warm and encouraging. The kindness swirled around her, wiping away the remnants of her despair. Hope blossomed, but just as smiles began to spread, Emily caught a glimpse of a shadow lingering at the back of the crowd. Her heart sank. Could it be someone from her past she had never hoped to see again? What would that mean for this newfound strength? What could they possibly want from her now? Emily's heart raced as she blinked, trying to process the figure at the back of the crowd. It was Clara, her old best friend from elementary school, a girl she hadn't seen in years. The very sight of Clara, dressed in a simple black coat, sent a flood of memories rushing back, memories of laughter, sleepovers, and the careless joy of childhood. But those fond feelings were shadowed by the painful fallout that had split them apart. Clara's eyes were locked on Emily, a mix of sorrow and apology etched on her face. For a split second, Emily felt a wave of anger fuse with disbelief. What was she doing here? The animosity of their last encounter flooded back, as Clara had been one of the many who had contributed to Emily's struggles over the years. As the applause around her faded, the warmth of newfound acceptance turned to ice in her veins. Could this be a cruel twist of fate? Was Clara here to mock her like before, or worse, to stir up unwanted feelings from the past? "Emily!" Clara called out, her voice trembling through the crowd as she stepped forward, breaking the invisible barrier that once separated them. Every eye in the room shifted toward Clara, and for a moment, the energy shifted. Curiosity mixed with tension, echoing through the center. Emily's heart thudded painfully in her chest. How could she face the girl who had abandoned her when she needed support the most? Just then, Mr. Jensen stepped up beside her, offering a reassuring presence. "You don't have to do anything you're not ready for, Emily," he whispered, his tone low and steady. Emily swallowed hard, wrestling with her emotions. Insecurity clawed at her. Did she really want to confront this part of her past now, especially in front of everyone? But as Clara's eyes widened with sincerity, Emily felt a flicker of something else. Perhaps it was the courage that had blossomed within her only moments ago. I want to hear what you have to say," Emily found herself saying, her voice steady despite the storm inside. The crowd hushed, every head leaning in. Clara took a deep breath, her fingers trembling. "I didn't know. I was young and stupid. I was part of it all, and I'm so sorry," she managed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I regret it every day. I just want a chance to make it right." The honesty of Clara's words hung in the air, a captive whisper that made Emily's heart ache. She couldn't ignore the wounds they both carried, wounds that, for a long time, felt too deep to heal. And yet, just then, a small voice cut through the tension. It was a younger girl, stepping up beside Clara. "You know, my sister always talked about you, Emily. She misses you. We all make mistakes." Emily's heart cracked open a little more, the walls she had built around her slowly crumbling. A sliver of hope emerged, a possibility that perhaps they could reach a truce or even better a new beginning, but how could she trust so easily after everything? Was it so simple to forgive? The conflict tugged at her mind, making her stomach churn. The crowd remained silent, hanging on her next words. Emily felt the weight of expectation, her emotions swirling like a tempest. Suddenly, she realized that this moment might define not just her past, but her future as well. With every eye upon her, she had to choose. Would she let the hurt from yesterday dictate her today? Or could she embrace the chance to heal, to reclaim her story in a way she never thought possible? Taking a deep breath, she spoke again, her voice steady with purpose. "Maybe we should talk." And just as she saw the flicker of hope in Clara's eyes, another figure caught her attention at the edge of the crowd. A familiar face, as if the universe was testing her resolve once more. What other surprises lurked in the shadows waiting to challenge her newfound strength? Emily's gaze darted to the edge of the crowd, her heart skidding to an unexpected halt. Standing there, almost swallowed up by the mass of faces, was Jamie, her childhood crush, a boy with spirited laughter and dreams that lived in every corner of their small town. But time had twisted them both. He looked older, hardened perhaps, and something flickered in his eyes that sent the uncertain warmth in her chest plummeting. "Jamie?" she whispered, almost lost in the noise of the crowd. His gaze met hers, wide and surprised, as if he hadn't expected to find her here. He smiled, but there was sadness tucked beneath it. Rumors had spiraled between them for years, how he moved away, how they both intercepted life's tricky paths, forever changed. The buzz around Clara was momentarily forgotten. Jamie was a different kind of reminder of everything she had tried to escape. As Emily turned back to Clara, the atmosphere shifted again. It wasn't just about reconciliation anymore. Here was Jamie, two ghosts from her past showing up at this pivotal moment, each waiting for her to decide which path she wanted to tread. Were they here to uplift her or to bury her deeper in the debris of old rejections and friendships gone sour? "Emily," Clara's voice sliced through the confusion, "I meant what I said. I truly want to make amends." The urgency in Clara's voice momentarily pulled Emily back. She glanced between her former best friend and Jamie. Clara's need to rectify their past weighed heavy, a plea for understanding delivered in a storm of raw emotion. "Why now?" Emily asked, her voice catching. "Why here? After all this time?" Even as the words left her mouth, she could feel herself trying to find her footing on shaky ground. "I was scared. I thought I could pretend it didn't happen. But running from it didn't fix anything," Clara confessed, her hands clasping tightly in front of her, vulnerability seeping through her facade. "That day when everything blew up," Clara paused, choking back her own emotions. "I lost you, and I can't keep living with that regret. Emily felt a stirring in her heart. Regret was a familiar emotion, something she had often wrestled with in her own life. Leaning deeper into that hope, she whispered, "What if we can start over? What if we can really fix this?" Clara's expression brightened at the possibility, but Emily sensed that something still hung in the balance. Jamie stood silently by, his presence a constant reminder of her unresolved feelings. "Yeah, Emily. Maybe we can turn the page together," Jamie spoke softly, his voice gruff yet wrapped in warmth. "I never meant for us to drift apart." The crowd melted away, their words echoing through the void, rapidly filling with a burgeoning sense of possibility. Emily looked from Clara to Jamie, the weight of their expectations mingling with the hope swelling in her chest. "Can we really do it?" she asked, vulnerability slipping into her question, her heart exposed. "We can try," Clara said with conviction. Jamie's nod matched Clara's certainty, but an undercurrent of worry remained. Emily could see it in his eyes, a shadow lingering behind the surface of hope he was trying to present. Suddenly, a loud bang came from the back of the room, jarring them all to attention. The crowd erupted in chaos as people spun around to see what had happened. Emily's heart dropped. What else was waiting to derail this moment? She turned towards the sound, her breath quickening as she realized that this evening was spiraling into something far beyond just mending past wounds. What had she stepped into, and was she still ready to face it all? With the chaos swirling around them, Emily had to ask herself one thing: could she truly trust the fragile bonds of her past, or was something darker threading through the fabric of her present? The air cracked with tension as chaos erupted around Emily. People shouted, some darted for the exits, while others stood frozen in confusion. Among the shrieks and the rush, Emily's heart raced not just from fright, but from the cold grip of uncertainty that held her tight. Where had this sudden uproar come from? And how had this night turned from moments of hopeful reconciliation into a terrifying whirlwind? "Stay close," Jamie said, instinctively taking a step towards her, his eyes darting around as if scanning for threats. His voice held an urgency that grounded her, even as her own mind spun with the implications of his presence. Clara, too, reached out, grasping Emily's arm firmly. "Let us not panic," she urged, though Emily could tell that fear flickered in Clara's eyes. The crowd began to thin as people rushed away, carrying the weight of their own worries. But all Emily could focus on was Jamie, so near yet seemingly so far. Did he share her fears, or was there more simmering beneath the surface? The echo of heavy footsteps approached, and Emily turned. A figure she recognized sprang into view: Mr. Thompson, the town's mayor, his face flushed with authority. "Everyone, please remain calm. We will take care of this." His voice boomed over the chaos, creating waves of confusion and some semblance of order. "Do you think he knows what that bang was?" Emily whispered, the cling of fear stitching her words together. Jamie shook his head, still vigilant. "I don't know," he replied. "But whatever it is, it can't take away this moment." Emily felt a tingle at his words, a reminder that buried under the noise and panic, they were still holding on to something. But how long could this respite last? Every second felt fragile, like they were teetering on the edge of something much bigger than a mere reunion. Just then, the loud bang echoed again, this time more distinctly, a door crashing open. But who would do such a thing? The tension crawled up her spine and tightened around her throat, causing emotions to tumble like leaves in a storm. As she looked toward Jamie's face, searching for a sense of stability, she noticed a shadow flit across his features. Was it uncertainty, or something more? In the corner of her eye, Emily caught sight of Clara's expression changed. "We should go," Clara insisted, almost shaking now. "Not yet," Emily interjected, her voice rising above the chaos. She needed to stand her ground. "We can't let fear dictate this moment. We have to face whatever is happening together. If we walk away now," she hesitated, the seriousness of her words especially tangible. "We might miss our chance." Jamie nodded, his eyes steely with resolve. "I'm with you. Whatever it takes." A protective urge rose within her. The connection they shared felt palpable, and that spark from the past flickered back to life. As they took a step forward, the crowd erupted again. A figure surged through the influx of panicked bodies, and Emily's heart sank. Here came trouble, and it was barreling right toward them. What the hell is going on? A shout cracked through the noise. Emily squinted, fear and determination battling inside her. This was the moment of truth. With her past and present colliding, she knew they had to confront whatever lay ahead. But could they emerge stronger, or would they be driven apart once more? Her chest tightened, knowing the answer lay just beyond the chaos. Driven by instinct, Emily reached for Jamie and Clara's hands, their futures entangled. The intensity of their predicament skated dangerously close to a breaking point, and deep down, Emily knew that they were about to face something that could either tear them apart or forge an unbreakable bond. As they braced themselves for the unknown, she couldn't help but wonder, what truth was hurtling toward them, and could it forever change the course of their lives? The chaos was unlike anything Emily had ever experienced. In the midst of the confusion, she could barely make out the shape of the intruder, his features obscured by panic-stricken faces. The person's voice rang out again, demanding attention, and Emily's breath caught in her throat. As he drew closer, she saw the menacing glare in his eyes, the wildness of his movements amplifying the fear coursing through the crowd. "We need to leave. Now." His voice cut through the clamor, filled with urgency that sent shivers down Emily's spine. Clara squeezed Emily's hand tighter. "What if he's right?" she whispered, the tremor in her voice a clear indication of her rising anxiety. "No," Emily insisted, forcing her voice to be steady. "We can't just run. We need to understand what is happening." Jamie moved protectively in front of them, every line in his face tight with determination. "We can't let fear define our actions. We have to stand our ground." But the shouts surrounding them grew louder, taking on a frantic rhythm that made Emily's skin crawl. People were hurtling past them, their narratives woven with panic, some seeking safety, others searching for answers. Every shout, every crash echoed in her head. Suddenly, the mayor's voice returned, rising above the throng. "Everyone. Please. Emergency protocols are in place. Stay calm, stay where you are." With authority, he tried to regain control, but his eyes flickered with uncertainty, hinting at the pressure mounting behind the scenes. Emily glanced at Jamie, searching for reassurance. "What is happening, Jamie?" He looked back at her, his eyes wide with concern. "I don't know, Em. But I'm not leaving your side." A new surge of energy slammed into the crowd, and Emily felt her senses heighten. The moment felt surreal, teetering on the edge of a cliff, ready to plunge into the unknown depths. "Over there." Clara pointed toward the exit where some people had gathered, their voices a low drone of panic. "We can know." Emily snapped, the determination in her voice surprising even herself. "We can't scatter, we need to stick together. We can only deal with this if we're united." "Then what do we do?" Clara's voice cracked, her vulnerability emerging like a thread fraying at the edge. Before Emily could respond, another loud crash pierced the air. A table flipped over, and a few people screamed as another figure, this one cloaked in darkness, dashed toward the center of the room, eyes wild and desperate. For a heartbeat, everything seemed to stand still. Emily's heart thundered, each beat echoing the confusion swirling around them. Then, without a moment's notice, the figure shouted again. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I need your help." The words hung heavy, full of desperation, yet somehow cutting through the chaos. Slowly, the room began to quiet, the tension shifting as people began to listen. "What is going on?" Jamie stepped forward cautiously, bringing Emily and Clara in tow. His voice was firm, cutting through the uncertainty. The cloaked figure hesitated, breathing heavily. "There's a situation outside. People are in danger. But we can't fix it alone." As a mix of empathy and fear coursed through Emily, she shared a glance with Jamie. What lay on the other side of the door? Was this moment a chance for something greater, or would it lead them into darkness? In that split second, she felt the pull of fate, realizing they were at a crossroads where bravery would dictate their future. "Let us help," Emily said finally, her voice steady. Clara nodded, their hands still linked tightly, while Jamie's grip solidified as if saying, "I'm with you." And just like that, the air shifted, a sense of purpose igniting the fire in her veins. As they prepared to confront what lurked outside, Emily knew that the choices they made from this moment would change everything, but were they ready to face the challenges fierce enough to test their bond? With determination etched on their faces, Emily, Clara, and Jamie pushed through the crowd, following the cloaked figure toward the exit. The weight of uncertainty hung thick in the air, mingling with the scent of fear that clung to the back of Emily's throat. She glanced back at the gathering crowd, the frightened faces blending into one another, a sea of anticipation mixed with confusion. "Stay close," Jamie murmured, his voice low yet firm. Emily felt reassured by his presence, each step they took together weaving their bond tighter. As they reached the exit, the cloaked figure turned to face them, the dim lights casting deep shadows across his hooded features. "We need to move quickly," he urged, urgency lacing his words. "Outside, people are trapped. Their cries for help, it's too much." He hesitated, as if trying to barge through overwhelming emotions himself. Emily's heart raced with equal parts fear and resolve. She could almost hear the cries echoing in her head, calling out from the unknown. "What kind of danger?" she asked, unable to contain her curiosity and dread. "An accident. A bus overturned on Millwood Street. We can't let those people suffer. They need us." The figure's voice cracked, revealing the depth of his distress. A moment passed as the reality of his words settled in. Clara shuddered slightly, squeezing Emily's hand tighter as horror flickered in her eyes. "What if it's too late?" she whispered, fear gripping her voice. "It's never too late if we act." Jamie sounded resolute, his gaze intense, as if pleading for them all to find the strength they needed. The cloaked figure nodded, his eyes glinting with something resembling hope. "I can lead the way. I've seen it all, and together, we can make a difference." With a quick glance at Jamie and Clara, Emily felt her spirit surge. "Okay, let us go," she said firmly, the weight of their actions settling in. Every heartbeat pushed them closer to a critical mission, ready or not. The moment they stepped outside, chaos intensified. The harsh sounds of sirens wailed in the distance, mingling with the shouts for help. A crowd had gathered near the overturned bus, and darkness enveloped everything like a shroud. The moon barely lit the chaos before them, but Emily could see people anxiously running about, their cries cutting through the air like daggers. "Stay together," the cloaked figure commanded as he moved through the throng, leading them toward the wreckage. Emily felt the pulse of adrenaline thrum through her, urgency infusing her every step. She could see the bus now, its metal frame twisted grotesquely. The sight sent a wave of nausea washing over her, but she pushed it down. Clara stumbled momentarily, and Jamie quickly caught her, his protective instincts flaring. "We're almost there," he whispered softly, easing her fear. As they reached the bus, the first sight of the trapped passengers sent a jolt through Emily's chest. A woman lay pinned inside, crying for help. Panic sparked in every corner of Emily's mind, but she also felt something awaken inside her, a fierce longing to help those in need. "Form a line," the figure shouted, rallying the bystanders into action. "We can lift it together." "Are we really going to lift a bus?" Clara's eyes were wide, disbelief mingling with fear. "It's not just a bus, Clara. It's lives we're saving." Emily's voice rose above the chaos now swirling around them. As they joined the line, a simple yet profound truth enveloped them: they were not just facing a challenge, but stepping into a shared purpose. But just then, a chilling scream echoed from within the bus, freezing their movements. Emily glanced at Clara and Jamie, eyes wide, dread pooling in her stomach. "Something's not right," Jamie murmured, glancing back at the cloaked figure. "Keep pushing," the figure yelled, but Emily felt a gnawing doubt creeping in. What if their courage led them to danger rather than safety? As the crowd surged forward, the stakes just got higher, and with it, Emily's heartbeat quickened. Would they be able to save those in danger, or were they walking directly into the eye of a storm? The moment held its breath, a mixture of hope and dread hanging in the air. Emily's pulse raced louder than the sirens, the screams blending into an unsettling symphony. She stepped closer to the bus, squinting through the darkness. "We can't wait any longer," she urged, her voice barely breaking through the chaos. "Lift on 3. The cloaked figure shouted, determination shining through his masked face. 1, 2, 3. The line of people, a makeshift assembly of strangers united for a single purpose, strained to pull the bus. Together, they grunted and gasped, muscles straining, the bus barely budging. Emily planted her feet firmly, channeling all her fear into strength. She glanced at Clara, whose face was pale but resolute, and Jamie, who nodded, his steadfast presence grounding her. "Come on, everyone. We can do this," Emily shouted, surprising herself with the fierceness in her voice. It felt like a spark igniting within the crowd. They pushed harder, drawing energy from each other's resolve, a collective heartbeat reverberating against the metal hull. The bus creaked ominously, and Emily's heart sank. What if we shake it too much? She thought, but the woman's cry echoed again, a brutal reminder of their mission. Suddenly, the weight of Jamie's hand on her shoulder felt like a lifeline. "We're with you, Em," he encouraged, his eyes fierce with determination. The energy surged through her. This was more than just pulling a bus, it was about saving lives, about facing fear head-on. Together, the crowd pushed once more, and for a moment, the bus shifted. "Yes. Keep going." Clara's voice rang out, bringing renewed hope. Sweat rolled down Emily's brow, mingling with the tears back there. It was hard to tell which were which. They gave everything they had, heartbeats synchronizing in a frenetic dance of urgency. As the bus tilted slightly, a slice of light broke through the darkness, illuminating a face amidst the shadows. Emily could see the woman, fear etched on her features, but there was also a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Help!" she cried, reaching out. But as they strained against the bus, a horrific crack rang out, echoing louder than the cries and sirens. The crowd froze. Emily felt Marty's hand slip from hers as he stumbled back, horror splayed across his face. "What was that?" "Stay focused," the cloaked figure commanded again, eyes darting wildly. "We cannot let her down." But panic rippled through the crowd. Just when they needed unity the most, doubt began to twist the air, thickening into a miasma of fear. Emily felt it gripping her heart, like icy fingers threatening to snuff out the flicker of hope inside her. Clara's voice weakened, and she hesitated, fear reflecting in her eyes. "What if this is a mistake?" "No, we can't think like that. We have to keep pushing," Emily insisted, shaking her head, willing them to see the urgency in her eyes. They were all scared, but they had to believe they were strong together. Yet even as she said the words, uncertainty prowled at the edges of her mind. Inside the bus, the woman let out another harrowing scream, clawing at Emily's heart. "We have to help her now. We can't give up." But just as they renewed their efforts, an unfamiliar sound erupted, a rumble followed by the violent shudder of the bus. The figure's eyes widened in fear. "Get back!" he shouted, but it was too late. Panic swept through the crowd, and all at once, disarray set in. Emily stumbled back, heart racing as she fought to keep her footing. She looked to Clara and Jamie, struggling to maintain her composure amid the chaos. Then, just as the ground beneath them trembled, a shadowed shape shifted at the entrance of the bus, a new figure emerging from the darkness. It was impossible to see clearly, but Emily knew, with a chilling certainty, that something was about to change everything. What or who could it be? Emily's breath caught in her throat as the figure stepped into the light. The crowd halted, holding its collective breath. She squinted, trying to see past the shadows draping over the newcomer. It was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, with a wild mane of hair and a ragged coat that hung loosely on his frame. But it was his eyes, piercing and yet strangely gentle, that struck her most. "Get back," he shouted, raising a hand to the crowd. The urgency in his voice cut through the tension, but the depth of concern in his gaze held something else altogether. "Get away from the bus." Emily felt a rush of confusion. Who was this guy? Was he supposed to help? She exchanged frantic glances with Clara and Jamie, each of them wrestling the same questions. They didn't have time to doubt. Lives were at stake, and this man was standing in a way she couldn't understand. Suddenly, a deafening crash reverberated from within the bus, and Emily felt the ground tremble beneath her feet again. The cloaked figure rallied the group, pushing them back, but Emily's feet remained planted. She couldn't turn away. She needed to know what was happening. The man moved closer to the bus, his steps heavy but purposeful. "Listen to me. The structure is unstable. We need to pull back and assess before we do any more damage." "Assess?" Emily shouted, her panic flaring up like a wildfire. "That woman needs us now. We can't wait." She stepped forward, trying to gather her resolve, incredulous that he could even suggest hesitation when lives were in danger, but he met her gaze, unyielding. "And if that bus collapses on us, we'll be sacrificing more lives than just hers. You have to trust me." Emily's heart raced, a whirlwind of fear and determination wrestling within her. This was her chance to be brave, but was it worth risking everything? She glanced at Clara, who looked terribly unsure, then at Jamie, whose brows were knitted with concern. "What if he's right?" Clara whispered, stepping toward Emily. "We might endanger ourselves and her." Deep down, Emily felt it. The bus trembled again, the woman's cries piercing through the stifling air, drowning out the panicked murmurs around her. It was like each sound was a knife, slicing through her courage. "We can't let fear control us," Jamie said, his voice steady. Then he added, "But we also can't be reckless." The man surveyed the situation, his eyes darting from the crowd to the bus. "We need to get each other out alive," he urged, his voice softening slightly. "That's the only way we can help her." As if on cue, another loud crash echoed from inside the bus, sending a ripple of fresh terror through Emily. Her heart ached, battling against reason as she fought to process his words. But what could she do? The man turned back to her, sensing her struggle. "You're stronger than you think. You need to lead them. Find a way to get help. I'll stay here and do what I can." Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, and with urgency clawing at her throat, Emily finally nodded. "Okay. We'll get help." Suddenly, Jamie shouted from the back of the crowd, "There's a fire station right down the street. We can call for backup." "Yes." Emily responded, adrenaline pumping through her veins. "Let us move." As the crowd sprang into action, she glanced back at the man one last time. He had turned his attention back to the bus, determination etched on his features. Who was he, and what would happen next? Would their plan work, or was darkness about to swallow them all? The uncertainty loomed, heavy in the air, binding them together in a desperate chase against the clock. The chaos was surreal. Emily, Clara, and Jamie ran, their hearts pounding in unison, the urgency fueling their legs as they raced toward the fire station down the street. It was a blur, a cacophony of screams, sirens, and pounding footsteps echoing in her ears. Every breath felt like a lifeline, a reminder of what they were fighting for. "Call 911. Emily shouted, urgency lacing her voice as they approached the fire station. The familiar building, with its bright red doors and tall pole, brought a burst of hope. "Someone will help." She burst through the entrance, her words spilling out like an unstoppable flood. A firefighter at the desk looked up, concern instantly shadowing his face. "What is going on?" he asked quickly, looking for clarity amid the tension. "There's a bus overturned at Millwood. People are trapped inside." Jamie yelled, his voice shaking but strong. "We need your help." The firefighter jumped into action, issuing commands, gathering his team, his energy spurring them into motion. Outside, Emily glanced at Clara beside her, whose face reflected a mix of fear and determination. "We're really doing this," Emily breathed, adrenaline surging through her veins. "Together," Clara replied, her voice steadying, a shared understanding blooming between them. Just then, the firefighter emerged from the station, flanked by several other firefighters, ready for action. "Let us go," he shouted, leading the charge back toward the scene, and without hesitation, Emily, Clara, and Jamie followed. As they reached the outskirts of the chaotic scene, Emily's heart pounded harder than it ever had. The overturned bus loomed like a dark specter against the night, shadows dancing chaotically, lending an eerie sense of urgency. She could still hear the woman's cries echoing faintly, cutting through the chaos and straight into her heart. "Stay back." The firefighters directed the ever-gathering crowd, while Emily and her friends stepped aside, still aware of their collective dread. With swift, practiced movements, the firefighters formed a plan. Rescue tools were readied, and they discussed strategies to lift the bus safely. "We've got to stabilize it first," the lead firefighter said, his voice steady, radiating confidence as he reassured everyone. Emily watched, her heart warming as each firefighter demonstrated an intensity that ignited hope in her like never before. United, the firefighters worked with relentless focus, each moving with precise urgency, and Emily felt a swell of gratitude pushing back against her fear. Then, she felt a hand grasp hers, Clara's. "I can't believe we're here. We're really doing this," Clara whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. Emily squeezed Clara's hand. "We'll make it. Together." The crowd held its breath as the firefighters began their work. It was a visceral moment. Grunts of effort echoed, muscles strained, and the bus shifted slightly under the immense pressure of their collective strength. The woman's voice rang out again, half panicked and half filled with desperate hope. "Hang in there." One of the firefighters shouted, his voice booming. "We're coming for you." Emily's heart raced. The bus was finally moving, and it would take just a bit more to free the woman trapped inside. "Push!" Emily found herself yelling, echoing the firefighters around her. "We can do this. We're all together." In that moment, it felt like the universe paused, gathering strength within the collective belief that hope could outweigh fear. Then with one final heave, the bus shifted dramatically, and cheers erupted from the firefighters, roaring through the crowd. The bus, held together by the tenuous strands of trust and determination, shifted to the side, exposing the trapped woman beneath. The firefighters rushed inside, and moments later they emerged, carefully working to pull her free. "Thank you." The woman's voice cracked, tears streaming down her cheeks as they set her down gently, cradling her in their sheltering presence. Emily couldn't help but break into tears, the bittersweet catharsis flooding her heart with joy. Clara wiped her own tears away as Jamie stood tall at her side, beaming with pride. They executed something incredible together, a force of hope spreading through the crowd. "We did it!" Emily shouted, a thrilling smile lighting up her face. The community joined in celebration, relief washing over the once frantic scene. Then amidst the joy, Emily's gaze swept back to the cloaked figure, now standing on the periphery, his expression serene yet proud. He nodded slowly, his presence a quiet affirmation of the transformation that had occurred. Emily felt a shift inside her. A fear had dissolved, replaced with an undeniable strength that pulsed through her veins, binding her to the people who now surrounded her. This was a moment of clarity, of connection, and they had each played a part in turning despair into hope. This isn't just about surviving, she realized, her heart swelling. It's about supporting one another. As she turned back to Clara and Jamie, their smiles mirrored her own realization. In their shared courage, their past wounds had woven them together, a new bond stronger than any division that had come before. They were no longer just faces from a past hidden in the shadows, they were allies, united by kindness and resilience. "Let us promise to keep this feeling alive," Emily whispered, the night air cool against her skin, but her heart was warm with newfound purpose. Together, Clara echoed. Always, Jamie added, squeezing Emily's hand. As the sirens dwindled and the stars shone brighter, a fresh chapter unveiled itself. This night was not the end, but the eager beginning of healing and hope, a promise that together, they could face anything stronger than before. So as they gathered, surrounded by laughter and applause, another truth blossomed: they were ready to take on the world, hand in hand, hearts wide open. And they wouldn't look back. Now, as you reflect on this tale of courage and connection, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that could inspire change in your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support storytelling that matters. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending. And don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of standing together to uplift every story.